Hello and welcome back to another Eduonics tutorial. In this section, we'll be going over the different tools in Photoshop, and in this video, we'll be going over our final set of tools, the Workspace tools. The Workspace tools help you to navigate your canvas without necessarily altering your images. They're basically supplemental tools that just make your workspace fit better to your creative style. The first Workspace tool I'll be going over is the Eyedropper tool. It's located in the first quarter of the Tools panel, directly below the Crop tool. The Eyedropper tool is a quick way to sample your foreground and background colors. Pay attention to my foreground color near the bottom of the Tools panel. Then watch as I click a color on my canvas. The Eyedropper tool has switched my default foreground color of black to my new foreground color with just a click. Now, if I click a different color and hold, you can see that around my cursor is a big circle. This is called the sampling ring, and it's displaying the color I'm clicking on top of the ring while displaying the previous color I clicked on the bottom of the ring. Now if I want to choose my background color with the Eyedropper tool, all I have to do is press and hold my Alt key before I click. You can see at the bottom of the Tools panel that both my foreground and background colors have been changed from their defaults using the Eyedropper tool. I'll go to the Tools panel and right-click the Eyedropper tool to bring up the flyout menu, and select our next tool, the Color Sampler. The Color Sampler is sort of similar to the Eyedropper tool. It's just more suited for getting information on the colors that you choose. I'll just use the tool and click in my image. Instead of changing my foreground color, the Sampler tool has just placed a crosshair with the number 1 below it. I can click again in another area, and another area. Photoshop allows you to sample up to 10 colors with this tool. And you can see it's adding these colors to my info panel on the right. The info panel is displaying the number values for the colors I've clicked. I can bring up different values by clicking these mini eyedropper thumbnails. I'll go in the Tools panel and right-click the Color Sampler to bring up the flyout menu, and select our next tool, the Ruler tool. It's fairly common to need to know the length and width of your image. To do that, we can just hit Ctrl-R on the keyboard to enable our rulers. But occasionally, you need to know the length of something specific inside your image. To do that, we can just click and drag with the Ruler tool. As I drag, you can see the values on top in my tool options change. Now that I've measured an area on my image, I can check these values on top. Here in X and Y is the location on the canvas where I used my ruler. Then, as I look further on the right, here's my ruler width, height, and the angle of my ruler. If we want to use this angle to rotate the image, I'll just go over to this Straighten Layer option, and it will rotate the image to a point where the ruler will be completely level. I'll hit Ctrl-Z on the keyboard to undo this rotation. I'll go to the Tools panel and right-click the Ruler tool to bring up the flyout menu, and select our next tool, the Note tool. The Note tool can be extremely helpful for setting reminders or coordinating with other designers. When I click with it in my canvas, it adds this little floating icon that I can drag anywhere inside my image or outside my image in the gray space. Over here in the right, my Notes panel has popped up. Here I can write a little note as a reminder for myself to remove background. And if I happen to be working with other designers, I can go up in the tool options and write my name in the author box. Matthew Brown. Now, if I pass this file on to someone else, they will see my note with my name and message on it. I'll go ahead and make another note on my canvas. Then write background removed, as if somebody else wrote it. I'll also go up here in the tool options and change the color so this note stands out a little more from the other one. If these notes are getting in the way, but I don't want to delete them, I can just go up to View, Show, Notes. This will hide all my notes until I enable them again, or start using the Note tool again. If I really want to delete one of these notes, I can just click one, then click the trash icon on the bottom to delete it. And if I want to delete all my notes, I can just go up in the tool options and click Clear All. I'll go over the Tools panel near the bottom and select our next tool, the Hand tool. The Hand tool doesn't move the image. It moves your view of the image. I'll just click and drag. And you can see it just lets you center specific areas of the image. This is especially useful if you're working on an image very closely and it takes up your whole canvas. The keyboard shortcut for the Hand tool is the space bar. And like with most tool shortcuts, you can have an entirely different tool selected while you use the shortcut to temporarily switch to another tool, only to switch back to your original tool as soon as you release the key. I'll right-click the Hand tool to get to our next tool, the Rotate View tool. This one works a lot like the Hand tool, only instead of moving your view around, it rotates it. If I click and drag, it rotates my view at the very center of my window. So I can hold spacebar to move a corner of my image to the center of my window. Then I'll use Rotate View to start rotating from that point. Now it's important to remember that this isn't affecting your image at all. It's just rotating your current perspective of the image. So if I were to save this image and reopen it, it will be straightened out like I never rotated it at all. Up in the tool options, it displays the exact rotation. So if we have a specific angle in mind, say 45 degrees, we can just type 45 in the box to rotate there. And if we want to see things as they were before we rotated, we can just click this button here called Reset View. The next tool should be somewhat familiar. It's directly below the Rotate View tool in the Tools panel, shown by a magnifying glass. It's the Zoom tool. I'll just use it to click in my canvas to zoom in increments. By default, the Zoom tool wants to zoom in. To zoom out, all we have to do is hold the Alt key before we click, and it zooms out. Up in the tool options, if Scrubby Zoom is enabled, we can click and drag in the canvas to the right or to the left to zoom in and out. And if I go back up and disable Scrubby Zoom, I can click and drag my Zoom tool to make a rectangular marquee. Once I release, it will zoom to show what's inside my rectangle. We've already touched on the foreground and background colors. I'll just go over them again so we're all on the same page. I can click the box on the top left to set my foreground color, and the box on the bottom right to set my background color. Then I can switch them with the curved double arrow on the top right. Then switch back to my default colors with this button on the top left. Below the color swatches is a button for Quick Mask Mode. If I click this now, nothing happens. This is because we don't have any selections in our canvas. I'll disable it by clicking it again. Then I'll use my rectangular marquee tool to make a selection. Now that I have my selection, I'll hit Q on my keyboard to enable Quick Mask Mode again. Now you can see the area that I selected with the rest of the image tinted in red. Quick Mask Mode basically allows you to view your selection in a different way so that you can use different tools to edit your selection. Masks can be amazing for making and editing selections. I'll go more in depth with masks in another video. Finally, we have the last button in the Tools panel, the Window Mode button. If I click this once, it gets rid of my scroll bars on the bottom and on the right. This is just a way of working in Photoshop with a bit of a cleaner canvas. Then, if I click the Window Mode again, a warning box pops up. Basically, this is letting us know that we're about to enter full screen mode, and it will hide the Photoshop interface completely. I'm going to go ahead and click Full Screen to proceed. From here, we can show our panels again, just by hovering over the edge of the screen to the left or to the right. If we want to get back to the standard window mode, just hit the F key on the keyboard. And we're back. Okay, that will do it for the Workspace tools, and the tools in general. In the Tools section, we covered the tools to set selections, we covered the tools to manipulate the contents of those selections, we covered the tools to create content from scratch, and we covered the tools to make the workspace fit our needs. Now that we've covered this section on tools, I'll start going over a new section, Workflow, in the next video.